Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jesse, and in this channel we discuss topics on how to improve our daily lives and become the best version of ourselves. Now today I'm going to try to do a brief book review over the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Now guys, keep in mind this is my first time doing a book review, so please try to be patient, enjoy the book review, and of course give me any feedbacks on what I should do. But I hope to do many more in the future. Guys, I love reading. I've been reading consistently for the past 3 years, and it's really changed my life. Now, if you've seen my Get to Know Me video, which is the last video I posted, or the last couple of days I posted, basically in that video, I pull back the curtains, tell you a little bit about my childhood, and I mentioned that I used to struggle a lot in reading, right? That was probably one of my weaknesses growing up, but in the past 3 years, I really try to improve my reading. I really enjoy it. Now, I try to read at least about 30 to about 40 minutes a day. I just finished up this book, which I'm going to give you a quick review, which is the Total Money Makeover. And guys, it's a great book, so I hope to dive into it. Keep in mind that books are also a good way to improve our minds. All right, so I recommend everybody to at least read a book of their interest and see how it really changes your way of thinking, right? And it also teaches us new things, right? Every time I read a book, I'm always learning new things. In this case, I'm gonna share what I learned in this book. Now, some of the topics that I like to read are self-development books. Biographies have probably been the most important one for me. I have read the Phil Knight, the Nike one, I think it's called Shoe Dog, which that was probably one of my first biographies. And guys, that's a great book. It's so great that I'm going to try to read it again. Personal finance, business, and of course any other books that I'm trying to get into. But those are the main topics of books that I like to read so far. Guys, I have over 20 books now, and I also like to listen to audiobooks, which also audiobooks are also a great way to, get into reading. But I believe, getting the physical copy of the book is always going to be the best thing. All right. So let's dive in to the Dave Ramsey, the Total Money Makeover. So let's go. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into the background of the author. All right. So I always like to, first of all, give you a little bit of bio over the authors for y'all to get a better understanding of the book. All right. So first of all, Dave Ramsey is an American host. He owns a radio host called The Dave Ramsey Show, which he offers financial advice. So normal people go ahead and they call the radio stations. They voice their concerns on any financial hardships they're going through, whether they have credit card debt, whether they are in just in a big hole. Dave Ramsey gives them financial advice on how to get out that hole. All right, he puts it in a good way, which I'm going to share in a little bit, called the 7 baby steps, which are steps that to get you where you need to be to start building that wealth. All right. He's the author of several books. Not only does he have the Total Money Makeover, but he has a whole bunch of other books over how to manage your money. All right. So Dave does a good job of pretty much telling people that, you are the one that needs to control your money, not your money control you. So he does a good job of telling people, hey, there is a way to start building wealth. All right. And again, going back to those 7 baby steps that I'm going to share in a bit. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into the summary and key points of the book. Then we'll go ahead and share some of my takeaways, which, again, guys, this is a great book. Probably one of the best books that I've read in a while. But I'm going to go ahead and dive into first the summary, give you my takeaways, and then, of course, share anything I found in the book and my overall book review of the book. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Let's go. All right, so pretty much the book really lays the foundation of how to manage our money and get out of debt, right? So Dave Ramsey does a good job of pretty much giving us a roadmap on how to get ourselves out of debt and start building that wealth. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and discuss the first 2 chapters because I believe those first 2 chapters are very important aside from the 7 baby steps. But the first 2 chapters, he really paints a vivid picture of pretty much why you should understand not to be in debt and how to build that wealth. All right. So guys, I'm not going to go through every chapter. I'm only going to discuss these 2 chapters, and then I'm going to give you my brief takeaways. All right. So chapter 1. So Dave shares his story. So he gets on a personal level. He shares his story in the book of how he hit rock bottom. Right. So from the book, he was already a millionaire by, I believe, his mid-20s. I'm not sure if it's mid-20s or early 30s, but he was already a millionaire, right? His main thing, he did real estate, and something happened, right? And the reason it happened is because his control over money, right? He didn't know how to manage money. He didn't know how money actually works, right? So he actually hit rock bottom and lost everything, right? He was on the road of being sued. So a whole bunch of, he was being sued for various companies, also foreclosure on his new house, and he was having a baby on the way along with his small toddler. All right, so you could imagine what are some things he was going through, the worries that he was having because of this rock bottom. All right, and he was being bankrupt. All right, so he went through a quest on how money works. So he went through this quest he was tired of being worried. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to find out how actually money works. He realized that money problems, worries, and shortages begin with the person in the mirror. All right. So he looked himself in the mirror and said, you know what? The problem is actually me. And which is great. It's fantastic because that's the first thing we have to do in anything. Anything we do, we have to find out first. We have to really identify, to put ourselves in that place and really tell us like what is actually the problem. And it starts with us. All right, so that was really fantastic that he included that. Chapter 2 is about denial. So denial. So we need to stop being in denial. So we need to stop telling ourselves that everything is okay. It's okay for us to be in debt. It's okay for us to owe a lot of money in our mortgages. It's okay for us just to live with a debt in our lives, right? And that's not the case, right? So in chapter 2, he discussed that we need to stop being in denial about our finances, and we need to make big changes in our lives. All right, and it starts with us. He shares about a couple that upgraded their lifestyles with a big house, a high car payment, student loans, and high credit card debt, and no savings or an emergency fund. All right, so Dave Ramsey does a good job of including real life stories about people that went through financial hardships and what their experiences were like, and what these 7 baby steps did to help improve their lives, which they went through a total money makeover. And after the total money makeover, they pretty much share how these seven baby steps changed their lives, which is very fantastic, right? And this throughout the whole book, I want to say like at least in every chapter, there's real life stories about couples sharing their experiences, which is really unique, right? Because believe it or not, there's somebody in there, and they're all from different age groups. Everybody could connect with those individuals, right? So so that's chapter 1 and chapter 2. First, we have to look ourselves in the mirror and stop being in the now to make those changes. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into my takeaways. All right, guys, so my takeaways from the book, The Total Money Makeover. All right, so the first thing that Dave Ramsey really highlights is that cash is king. All right, guys, and I've heard this in the past. I've heard this in other videos that I've watched. I also read about cash is king, and it took me a while to actually understand it, right? And it's very simple, right? It's very simple to understand, but he believes that we should all buy our items in cash. Everything should be in cash except our mortgage, which I'll talk about in the rest of my takeaways. So anything from house appliances, your vehicle, cell phones, and any personal item should be bought in cash. If you don't have the cash to buy the item, you shouldn't be buying that item at all. So for example, the phone that I'm recording, it's one of the new iPhone, I believe it's iPhone 13. Now, I bought this towards the end of last year because I really needed a phone, guys. So what I did is bought it in cash, And it's really important to buy it in cash, guys, because you don't have to worry about the payments. You don't have to worry about paying interest on your personal items. So what I did is I bought the phone in cash. I had the cash, I had the cash to buy the phone, and I bought it. Same thing with my Apple Watch, right? I really wanted an Apple Watch to track my miles, to track my heart rate. What I did, went to Best Buy and bought the watch in cash. Now, if I would have went with any phone carrier such as T-Mobile probably would have been like, we'll give this to you for $5 and just be paying it in payments, which, guys, you're paying more. You're paying way more than you have to for a personal item. So keep in mind that cash is always king. Whatever you do, cash is always going to be king. And I've gone really good at really noticing that cash is always going to be the best method to buy your personal items. All right. So with that, he also mentions that car payments completely destroy your chances of building wealth. All right. So guys, car payments right now are really high. Car payments could go anywhere from $500 to about $600-700 a month. And which is crazy, guys, because most people pay mortgages of almost $1,000-2,000, and on top of that, their second most highest payment to pay is a car payment, right? So reading that, we know that car loses its value, right, over the years, right? He mentions in the book that never buy a car within the same year. So for example, let's just say that I need to buy a car, and I went and bought a 2013 Dodge Ram, right? Well, he says that it's not good to get a car of the same year. Always go back 2 years. He prefers buying used cars. Anything that will get you moving is just fine, all right? Because the value of the car is always losing its value over the years, guys. So keep that in mind, that big car payments destroys your chances of building wealth. All right. He also recommends buying, of course, like I said earlier, buying a vehicle that's 2 years old. All right. Like I mentioned earlier, try to look at any used cars that are at least 2 years old. So for example, going back to my 2023 example, let's just say I'm looking for a car. I'm going to look for anywhere from a 2021 to a 2020 vehicle. All right, and he's going to do the same thing. All right. He also is against credit cards. Like, if you read throughout the whole book, in some chapters he's really honing in, cut off the credit card. Example, you see right here on the book, he's actually cutting off the credit card, right? So he believes that credit cards, no American should own a credit card, because Americans do a bad job of paying back their credit card debt, right? So for me, credit cards, I have personally experienced high credit card debt. My first credit card coming out of college, which thank God during college I did not discover credit cards, but after college I got a credit card, and guys, I completely blew it, right? I didn't know how a credit card worked. I didn't know that there was an interest rate that you had to pay if you missed a payment, a big interest rate, right? In that case, it's much bigger now ever since inflation. And of course, you always have to pay it in full, right? Always have to pay it in full. Of course, if you have other high debt, which we'll talk about later, focus on the high debt and only pay the minimum on the credit card. But guys, it took me a while to understand how credit cards work. And to this day, now I know how credit cards works, and the benefits of credit cards, which I'll dive in future videos. Credit cards could be seen as a good thing as well. But if you are still in the beginning stages in how to manage money, my advice would be avoid getting a credit card, right? Just like Dave Ramsey mentions, he hates credit cards. A lot of people are like, credit cards are just like debit cards. Not exactly, right? Credit cards are much different because you're actually borrowing money from the government, right? So guys, avoid credit card debts at all costs. If you have credit card debt now, right now I'm going to share the 7 baby steps to get you to pay that debt. All right. I also like that he includes a lot of myths and truths throughout the book. So at least in every chapter, he always includes a myth, and he always includes a truth, right, to that myth. So here's an example that I wrote down here on my notes. So the first myth that he mentioned is that the first myth in the book, he says, if you pay off your credit card every month, you'll get a free use of someone else's money, right? That's a myth. Now, he right at the bottom of the myth, he put the truth. So in the book, he mentions that this website called Credit Card Track says that about 60% of people don't pay off their credit cards every month. All right, let me say that again, guys. So the truth, he said, Credit Card Track states that about 60% of people do not pay off their credit card debts every month. Guys, I don't know about y'all, but that's a high number. That's 60% of Americans, which is crazy, right? So going back to what he says, try to avoid credit cards at all costs. All right, and as I mentioned, that myth and truth that he mentions in the book, it really gives you a clear vision of, some of these myths I believed in the past, right? For example, some of the myths that he mentions. I'm trying to remember one of the other myths that he mentioned. We could look at the book real quick. So let me see. Oh, perfect one, right when I turned in. So in page 26, he mentions this is another myth and another truth. So, cash advance, pay loans, rent to own, title pawning, and toll the no car lots are needed to help lower income people get ahead, which is not true, right? The truth to that is that these are rip-off examples of predatory, sorry guys, lending are designed to take advantage of lower income people and benefit only the owners of the companies making the loans. All right, this is just an example, guys. So again, throughout the whole book, he really mentions the myth and the truth, and that's really a good way to highlight, so common myths that we've been believing for the longest, right? All right. So aside from that, from the myth and the truth, he wants everybody to have a monthly budget. All right. Your money should be allocated to different things that you are paying on. All right. For example, you need to have a budget for food. You need to have the budget for your bills. You need to know what kind of bills you pay. You need to have the budget for going out to eat. He believes that creating a budget would keep you organized and telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. All right. And so with creating a budget, again, Dave's main goal is to highlight debt. All right. Debt is the enemy of all enemies. Nobody should be in debt. If you have been in debt in the past, how being in debt feels. Myself, I've been in debt with not only credit cards, which I paid those credit cards. I wasn't, a little bit of background story, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know how to handle credit cards. So I had 2 credit cards coming out of college, and of course, didn't know how to use them, barely paid the minimum. Sometimes I missed payments, didn't know how to handle those credit cards. So yeah, guys, so being in debt is just, it's very worrying, and it gets to you, right? So with that, he mentioned that debt is the enemy. Debt is a myth to make banks rich, which that is true. Don't rely on debt unless it is your mortgage. So Dave does a good way of saying that, nobody should have debt. Nobody should have credit card debt, student loan debt, or any other debts that are out there, especially loans, car payments. Nobody should be in debt except your mortgage. And I like the way he says that, because in the book he mentions that it is a great investment. Your house is always going to be one of your best investments, which is true, because data shows that your investments in your home always grows in equity over the years, which it's always a return on your money, right? Which we'll talk about later. All right, guys, what else? So we're gonna go ahead and go over the baby steps of the book. So we're gonna mention the 7 baby steps that he mentions in the book to get you on the right track to how to manage your money and pay off debt. All right, then I'll give you my closing thoughts, and then we'll end the book review. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and talk about the 7 baby steps. All right, guys, so again, 7 baby steps are written and pretty much from Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover. Also, if you go to his website, where the name of his website is called The Dave Ramsey Solutions, he also has them included in there. And guys, the 7 baby steps works with anyone, right? All ages, no matter where you are in life. The 7 baby steps are a good way to help not only pay your debt, but also build that wealth. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So step number 1 is, create an emergency fund. All right, so he states in the book, start saving $1,000 in cash as a starter fund, which is a keyword, starter, which later on in the baby steps he wants you to have more than 1,000. But for now, the first baby step is to save $1,000 in cash. Now, whether you want to do it in physical cash, that is up to you. I like to do mine a little bit different, only because sometimes I don't like carrying physical cash that much. What I do is every time that I get paid, I have direct deposit. I have my money. I send my money to another bank, right? So what I do is I like allocating it to an online bank. There's a whole bunch of online banks out there that have a good APY, which we'll explain what an APY is in the other videos. But you have platforms like SoFi. You have platforms like Capital One. Capital One is a really good one that I have as well. Capital One has not only a 360 online checkings accounts, but it has the 360 I believe performance saving account. So what I do is that's where I put my emergency funds at sometimes. And I also have SoFi, which I have about 4 or 5 bank accounts. I always like to separate my money. It's always a good way, but we'll talk about that in another video. So again, going back to the $1,000, whether you want to save it in cash or if you want to, send it to another, one of your other banks, or you have like a hyper bank, which that's the online bank, however you want to do it. All right. He also wants you to, the whole purpose of having this $1,000 starter fund is to always prepare for the worst. All right? Always prepare for the worst, or just a simple rainy day. All right? What does it mean by that? So, guys, as humans, there's always something destined to happen, right? Whether something happens in your car, whether a major emergency comes up with your family, or something just happens. He always wants you to be prepared. All right, something's always bound to happen. Always be prepared is the key to step 1. All right. Step 2, he wants you to pay your debt, and like I highlighted in my previous takeaways, paying debt is the second thing you want to do, right? Aside from starting your emergency fund. So pay your debt. So there's a whole bunch of techniques on how you pay your debt. The one I heard the most, and the one he includes in the book, is called the Snowball Effect. So pretty much the Snowball Effect is where you pretty much tackle the small debt, that give you a small reward of paying off the small debt, and slowly working your way up to paying that large debt. Sort of like a snowball, that's why they call it the Snowball Effect, because usually when you build a snowball, you start slow and it rolls all the way down, and of course it creates a big snowball. All right, so that's one method. And guys, there's a whole bunch of methods on how you pay your debt. Again, that's one he mentions in the book, and it's one of the ones I like to use as well in the past. Also, he recommends, if an emergency comes up, like I mentioned earlier, something is bound to happen, guys. As humans, something comes up, an emergency comes up. So if an emergency comes up, you need to dip, and you actually need to dip into your emergency fund. Stop the snowball effect, so stop paying off the debt, but still pay the minimum payments. All right, because the whole idea of paying off your debt is that you're actually working to pay up the full debt. right? But he states if an emergency comes up and you have to take off from that $1,000, of course, as an emergency, you need to focus on that first, but still pay the minimum payment so you won't pay interest, right? And of course, resume back once you have $1,000 back in your emergency fund. All right. Baby step number 3, he states that finish funding your emergency fund. So remember, his main goal in step 1, he mentions that he wants only you to have $1,000. Now he wants you to take it up a notch, right? So he wants you to cover at least 3 to 6 months of expenses. All right, and that could be different for everybody, based on what your take-home pay is. Let's just say you bring in about $3,000, $4,000 a month. You always want to prepare. You always want to have an emergency fund that covers your 3 to 6 months expenses. So just in case something happens, you lose your job, you're in the hospital, a family member's in the hospital that you have to take off. You have those 3 to 6 months of expenses to help you out, and it's different for everybody, guys. With $11,000, you think you're good. $15,000, $20,000, whatever the case may be, everybody's different. But always try to have that full 3 to 6 months emergency fund. All right, because guys, again, as he mentions in the book, and as humans, emergencies are always unexpected, right? They always come up at different points in our lives, and is the best way for us to not worry so much about money, but to be prepared. Always be prepared. All right. And baby step number 4. So baby step number 4, he wants you to invest 15% of your income in retirement. All right. So whatever you take home pay, take 50% of that and invest it in any of your retirement, right, guys? And there's a whole bunch of retirement funds, guys. We could go on and on and talk about retirement funds. Of course, there's a whole bunch of brokerages that you could go. You got Vanguard, you got Fidelity, whatever brokerage you want to use is up to you. And again, hopefully we'll make a video in the future. But investing 50% of your income into retirement is the best way to build your wealth. All right. So he wants you to start building that retirement fund. Now, going back to the brokerages, some of your companies have their own retirement funds, but always do your research and whatever works for you. All right, the best ones are always the Roth IRA, which everybody talks about the Roth IRA. That's big tax advantage. You do not pay taxes on it. Only until you retire and pull that out is when they charge you taxes. So keep that in mind. But again, I'm not no financial advisor, guys. Do your own research. But again, 50% of your income in retirement. All right. Baby step number 5, save for college. All right. So what does it mean by that? So in the book, he mentions that once you have baby step number 2, 3, and 4 down, now I start saving up for college. All right. What does it mean by that? Start saving up for college for your kids. College is expensive. It's only going to get expensive the years to come. There's a whole bunch of accounts that he mentions in the book that are good to start off. He has the education savings accounts. He talks about that a little. He also talks about the 529 plan in the book. Again, do your own research on that. But a couple of things he highlighted in the book that I really wanna share with y'all, guys. So he does mention that college does not ensure jobs. So that's the misconception, and I talked about that in my previous videos. And he also mentions in the book, which I'm kind of glad that he actually shared that in the book, because there's always a misconception. But I like that he included that college did not ensure jobs. All right, it does not ensure jobs. It does not ensure success, and it does not ensure wealth. All right, keep that in mind, guys. Again, I'll repeat again. In the book, he mentions that college does not guarantee a secure job, nor success, nor wealth. All right, which is a common myth that we believe, and that's the myth I believed when I went into college, which I shared that in my get to know videos, and hopefully I'll make a video on that. But just keep that in mind. So do not go in debt trying to send your kids to a fancy university. Again, he mentions in the book, try to plan ahead and create those funds so you can have the affordability to send your kids to college. All right. The best thing he wants you to do is he doesn't want you to go in debt to send your kids to a fancy university. Right. He believes that if you don't have the money, there's a whole bunch of alternatives to help you save to get to your kids to go to college, right? There's community colleges where you could take the basics and then transfer to a university. But he highlights in the book he does not want any parents to go in debt just to fund their kids' education, right? That's what he says. Plan ahead, do what you could afford. There's scholarships out there. There's recruitments out there. Also, he mentions that get creative. Have your kids research companies that will pay for your degree. All right, there's a whole bunch of companies out there that will you actually fund individuals to take these college courses so they can be part of the company. So do your research on that. But he also recommends kids to do the research, right? Do the research, see how much the cost of the colleges are, on a state level, on a local level, or even outside the state. Check the costs of the college. And of course, your degree, right? Also do the research in your degree. Like, what is the demand in that degree? All right. Are there a high demand in that jobs? Is there a low demand? And there's no demand at all? Do the research before you go into college, which again, that's a great thing he highlighted. All right. We'll wrap that up, and we'll go ahead and go to baby step number 6. All right. Pay off your home. So pay off your home. This is a step along. Once you have all the other 5 steps down, he wants you to start paying off your home. All right. Now, he does not want you to, and there's a myth that he mentions that, tax deductions are not bargains. Don't borrow against your home, which he highlights a lot in this chapter when he talks about pay off your home. Do not borrow against your home, no matter what, no matter what the circumstances are. Do not borrow against your home. All right. The best time to refinance is when you save on interest, right? Other than that, he does not want you to finance your home. Do not refinance your home whatsoever. All right. So in page 177, his recommendations, and I really put this in my notes. For the mortgages, he recommends never to take more than 50% of your fixed. Yeah, he never take more than 50% fixed rate loan. So I'm not really familiar with mortgages yet, guys. And I hope to, learn more about that. But that's what he mentions in the book. So I can't really give you any examples on that. But once I figure that out, I will upload a video on that. But aside from the fixed rate loan, never have a payment over 25% of your take home pay. And that's important. With that part, I do understand. All right. Never have a payment over 25% of your take home pay, which that's a key thing that he highlighted. All right. So once you finish paying off your home, which he believes that it could be, in the book he mentions that it could be done within 15 years. Some people paid it off in 12 years. Whatever the case may be, he wants really you to pay off your phone. Pay off your phone. Pay off your home. He wants you to pay off your home. All right. So that should be the next step. All right, guys. So that was baby step number 6. We're going to go ahead and jump into baby step number 7, which is the last step of our Total Money Makeover. So So baby step number 7, he pretty much mentioned that this is the time where you have to start building your wealth like crazy. All right, start building your wealth, because at this time you already have your house paid, you have no debt, so it's time to start building wealth like crazy. All right, and there's 3 things that he mentions about money, which that I really think is, we all need to see money like this, right? In the first part, he in this chapter, baby step number 7, he mentions that money is good for 3 things. All right, 1 for fun, 2 for investing, and 3 for giving. All right, so what he means, so in the book he highlighted that this is a time when you are already building wealth. Go ahead and start having fun, right? Because you have no debt no more. You already have a college fund for your kids. You paid off your house. So now it's time to start having fun, right? You know, whatever fun is to you, whether you like to travel, whether you really want to do your hobbies, whatever you consider as fun. He really wants you to highlight that in your journey to building wealth. All right, and investing, right? So he did mention investing is important, like anything else. Continue investing, as I mentioned before. Investing 15% of your take home pay is always the best thing to do, and giving. So at this time you're able to give now, right? Because remember, you're building wealth. You already pay your debt. You have pretty much nothing else to pay. It's your time to give, right? You know, sign up for whatever charities you want to give for. Whatever giving is to you, you want to give to your local church. He highlights that, you know, it's always a good thing to give, right? And myself, I like to give as well. Hopefully I could do that a lot more in the future when I'm in this stage of building wealth. All right. He always, in baby step number 7, he mentions that always manage your own money and surround yourself with a team of people that are smart. All right. What does it mean by that? Well, he really wants you to surround yourself with professionals, right? Professionals know what they're doing, but yet he wants you to still be in control. You make the decisions, right? So what he means by that, so for every team, you need an estate planner, right? Somebody that take care of your estates. If God willing something happens to you, right? For whatever happens to you or your family, you already have the estate plan, an attorney. You know, things get crazy, you're gonna need an attorney on your side, a CPA or tax expert. Guys, this is the US, we pay taxes. You know, depending on what bracket you are, will really affect you, but taxes is gonna be important. Again, I'm not no tax expert, but there's a whole bunch of resources you can find online to educate yourself on that, or find an expert. Insurance is always important, whether you have insurance for yourself or for your home. Insurance is always going to be important. Somebody else on your team is an investment professional. Again, you need somebody on your side to give you some insights and some advice over investing, and a good realtor. All right, so those are people that he believes that should be on your team. All right. So lastly, guys, to wrap it all up, again, thank you for sticking around. It took longer than I thought, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. Now, overall, guys, it was a good book. I really recommend everybody to read it. Hey, you know, at least once in your lifetime. Doesn't matter on what stage of life you are. I do recommend anyone and everyone to read the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. So again, guys, I apologize. I know that I took longer than expected, but hopefully it gave you some good insights what this book is about. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I have for today. Again, hopefully you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, and follow along on my journey. Peace.